We walk around with smartphones and smartwatches, convinced that we are the apex of civilization. We think we invented comfort. Spoiler alert, we didn't.
You are basically a caveman with a subscription service. Every time you lock your door, flush a toilet, or complain about your morning commute, you are mimicking a ghost who died 5,000 years ago. You think you're living in the future? No. You are squatting in the ruins of the Bronze Age, using technology invented by people who worshipped cats and thought the sun was a boat. Let me show you exactly how unoriginal your life really is. Fact 1. The toothbrush and toothpaste. Gravel for gums. You likely spent 3 minutes this morning staring at yourself in the mirror, scrubbing your teeth with a vibrating plastic wand and minty gel, thinking this was a modern necessity. It isn't. The ancient Egyptians were obsessing over oral hygiene while your European ancestors were still rotting from the inside out. Around 5000 BC, they were already manufacturing toothpaste. But unlike your sensitive teeth formula, theirs was a mixture of crushed ox hooves, burnt eggshells, pumice, and ashes. It wasn't designed to taste good. It was designed to grind the filth off your enamel with brute force. They also chewed on frayed twigs, the miswak, which contained natural antiseptics. You panic if you forget your floss. They were literally scrubbing their gums with gravel and wood, and they still had better jawlines than you. Fact 2. The flush toilet. The lost technology. You treat indoor plumbing like a basic human right, but for most of human history, people were throwing their waste out the window onto the street. You think sanitation is a modern concept? The Minoans on the island of Crete had fully functioning flush toilets and complex sewage systems 4,000 years ago. They used water pressure to clear the bowl and clay pipes to transport the waste away from the palace. The Romans perfected this with the Cloaca Maxima. Then, humanity decided to get stupid for about 1,000 years during the Dark Ages and forgot how to handle hygiene. We didn't invent the toilet recently. We just finally remembered how to stop living in our own filth. You aren't advanced. You're just finally catching up to the Bronze Age. Fact 3. Concrete, the unbreakable rock. Look at the sidewalk outside your house. It's probably cracked, right? Maybe a pothole in the road that the city has ignored for 3 years. That is modern concrete. Cheap, fast, and pathetic. Now look at the Pantheon in Rome. It has been standing for nearly 2,000 years, unreinforced, holding up a massive dome without a single steel bar. Roman concrete, or opus cementitium, gets stronger over time because they used volcanic ash and seawater in the mix. The seawater triggers a chemical reaction that creates a rare mineral called tobermarite, which actually heals cracks as they form. Your driveway crumbles if you park a heavy truck on it. Roman concrete survives earthquakes and millennia of neglect. We literally lost the recipe for superior construction and replaced it with planned obsolescence. Fact 4. Central heating, the floor of fire. You complain when the thermostat drops below 70 degrees, wrapping yourself in a heated blanket like a fragile burrito. You think keeping a house warm without a fire pit is high-tech? The Romans laughed at winter. They invented the hypocaust system, the original radiant floor heating. They built their villas on pillars, leaving a hollow space underneath the floor. Slaves would keep a furnace roaring outside, sending hot air and smoke circulating under the floor tiles and up through hollow walls. The stones would absorb the heat and radiate it evenly, keeping the room perfectly toasty without a single draft or ugly radiator. While you pay hundreds of dollars to heat the air near your ceiling, they were smart enough to heat the floor you actually walk on. Fact 5. The door lock, the tumbler pin. Every time you slide your key into the deadbolt of your front door, you are performing a ritual invented by the Assyrians and Egyptians 4,000 years ago. They created the first pin tumbler lock, the great-grandfather of the Yale lock you use today. Their version was made of wood and was massive, but the mechanics were identical. A hollow bolt filled with pins that prevented movement until a key with matching pegs lifted them to the correct height. It's a simple, mechanical verification system that has survived the rise and fall of empires. In 4 millennia, with all our computers and lasers, the best way we found to secure our homes is still put a jagged stick in a hole and twist. It's not innovation, it's just better metallurgy. Fact 6. The calendar, the taxman's clock. You hate Mondays. You stress about deadlines. You live your life in grid boxes of 365 days. Do you know who trapped you in this cycle? The ancient Egyptians. They didn't create the solar calendar for birthdays or holidays. They created it for bureaucracy. They needed to predict exactly when the Nile River would flood to irrigate their crops, and more importantly, when to collect taxes from the farmers. They calculated the year at 365 days, divided into 12 months. Before this, people just looked at the moon and guessed. The structure of your entire life, your work week, your rent payments, your annual anxiety, is essentially a 5,000-year-old administrative tool designed to make sure the pharaoh got paid on time. You aren't managing your time, you are serving an ancient system. Fact 7. High heels, the butcher's boot. Ladies, you think high heels are a symbol of feminine fashion or suffering for beauty. Gentlemen, you think they are impractical? You're both wrong. High heels were invented in 10th century Persia specifically for men, and not just any men, but cavalry soldiers and butchers. For soldiers, the heel was a functional tool to lock their boot into the stirrup so they could stand up on a galloping horse and fire arrows with deadly precision. Later, European butchers wore them to keep their feet out of the blood and offal on the slaughterhouse floor. It was tactical gear for killers and meat processors. It wasn't until centuries later that fashion hijacked the concept. So, when you stumble in stilettos, remember, you're wearing the tactical combat boots of a Persian archer. Fact 8. The alarm clock, the water whistle. You hit snooze on your iPhone and groan, thinking technology has enslaved you to the morning. But the Greeks were ruining sleep long before electricity. The philosopher Plato, a man allegedly obsessed with wisdom, apparently had a massive problem with oversleeping. He is credited with inventing the first water-based alarm clock. It worked by dripping water into a vessel at a specific rate. When the water reached a certain level, it forced air through a whistle with a sharp, piercing shriek that jolted you awake. There was no snooze button. There was no 5 more minutes. Just a relentless hydraulic scream demanding you get up and ponder the meaning of life. You think your morning is rough? Imagine being woken up by a steam whistle powered by gravity. Fact 9. Soap, the grease of Babylon. You have shelves full of body wash, facial cleansers, and antibacterial gels that smell like lavender and fear. You think you're the cleanest generation? The Babylonians were manufacturing soap in 2800 BC. They boiled animal fats, usually rendered from slaughtered livestock, with wood ash and water. However, here is the kicker. They didn't use it to wash their bodies. They used it to wash wool and cotton for the textile industry. It was an industrial degreaser. It took humanity another few thousand years to realize, hey, maybe we should use this on our armpits. You are essentially cleaning yourself with a refined version of ancient laundry detergent. But keep buying that exfoliating microbead nonsense if it makes you feel superior. Fact 10. The umbrella, the shadow of power. You use an umbrella to keep your cheap suit from getting wet in the rain. In ancient Egypt and Assyria, using an umbrella for rain would have been considered idiotic. The umbrella, from the Latin umbra, meaning shadow, was strictly a parasol, a defense against the brutal sun. More importantly, it was a status symbol. Only the king or the gods were allowed to be shaded. To stand in the shade was to declare you were better than the common peasant baking in the heat. It wasn't until the Chinese waxed the paper centuries later that it became waterproof. So, every time you struggle with a wind-blown umbrella on a stormy street, you are holding a desecrated symbol of divine royalty.
Look at you, getting defensive. But skeleton, we have iPhones, we have TikTok. Yes, and what do you use them for? To watch cats fall off tables and to argue with strangers. The Persians invented heels to shoot arrows from horseback. You wear them to stand in line at a club. The Romans invented concrete to build temples to the gods. You use it to build strip malls that sell vape pens. You haven't evolved, you've just accessorized your incompetence. Let's see what else you stole.
Fact 11. Breath mints, the honey pellet. You pop a mint before a date because you're terrified of bad breath. You think social anxiety is new? The ancient Egyptians had terrible dental problems because they ground their grain with stones, which left grit in the bread that wore down their enamel, leading to abscesses and rotting teeth. To combat the smell of decaying molars, they invented the first breath mints. Balls of frankincense, myrrh, cinnamon, and honey boiled together into pellets. They didn't have dentists, so they just masked the scent of oral death with expensive spices. Your fresh mint gum is just the modern version of trying to hide the fact that your body is slowly falling apart. Fact 12. Scissors, the spring blade. You have a drawer full of them. You use them to open Amazon packages. But the mechanism of shearing two blades past each other is a masterpiece of engineering that dates back to ancient Egypt around 1500 BC. Their version was a single piece of bronze bent into a U shape, acting as a spring. You squeezed to cut, and they sprang open. The Romans later added the pivot screw, cross blades, that we use today. Think about it. For 4,000 years, nobody has come up with a better way to cut paper than two sharp pieces of metal sliding against each other. We can split the atom, but we can't improve on the scissors. It is the peak of cutting technology, and you use it to cut loose threads off your sweatpants. Fact 13. The vending machine, the holy water dispenser. You think vending machines are a symbol of modern consumerism, a way to get a Snickers bar without making eye contact. Wrong. The first vending machine was built by Hero of Alexandria in the 1st century AD. It didn't dispense soda. It dispensed holy water in temples. Worshippers were taking too much water without paying, so the priests needed automation. You dropped a coin in a slot, the coin hit a lever, the lever opened a valve, and a specific amount of water flowed out until the coin fell off the pan. It was pure physics. No electricity, no error codes, just a cold, calculating machine exchanging spiritual salvation for loose change. We just replaced the holy water with Diet Coke. Fact 14. Makeup, the eye of Horus. You think eyeliner is about enhancing your features? In ancient Egypt, heavy black coal eyeliner wasn't just for style, it was survival gear. The lead-based mixture protected the skin from the intense glare of the desert sun, like ancient sunglasses. More importantly, the lead salts in the makeup produced nitric oxide, which boosted the immune system and fought off nasty eye infections caused by Nile flooding and flies. Both men and women wore it. It was tactical camouflage and medical protection. You wear it to look awake after a hangover. They wore it to prevent blindness. Once again, vanity was actually utility. Fact 15. The odometer, the stone drop. You rely on GPS to tell you how far you've driven. The Romans measured the empire without satellites. They built an odometer for their chariots. It was a complex set of gears connected to the wheels. For every Roman mile traveled, a small stone would drop into a box with a satisfying clunk. At the end of the day, you counted the stones to see how far you went and to calculate the tax for the cargo. It was analog data tracking. Leonardo da Vinci later tried to design one, but the Romans beat him to it by 1,000 years. They mapped the entire known world with a box of rocks. You get lost if your battery dies. Fact 16. Plastic surgery, the nose job. You associate plastic surgery with Hollywood vanity and Botox. But in India, around 600 BC, a physician named Sushruta was performing complex rhinoplasty, nose jobs. Why? Because a common punishment for crimes like adultery or theft was cutting off the nose. It was a social death sentence. Sushruta developed a technique to cut a flap of skin from the forehead, twist it down, and mold a new nose over the cavity, keeping the blood supply attached. It was reconstruction, not enhancement. His medical text, the Sushruta Samhita, describes surgical instruments that look almost exactly like the ones in a modern ER. While Europe was treating illness with leeches, India was rebuilding faces. Fact 17. The battery, the Baghdad jar. This is the one that really hurts the ego. We found clay jars in Baghdad dating back to the Parthian Empire around 250 BC that contained a copper cylinder and an iron rod. If you fill it with an acidic liquid like vinegar or grape juice, it produces a small electric current, about 1 to 2 volts. We have no idea what they used it for. Maybe electroplating gold onto silver. Maybe a magic trick for priests to shock people. Maybe pain relief. But the fact remains, electricity isn't a modern discovery. We just learned how to put it in a wall socket. Someone 2,000 years ago potentially held a battery in their hand and wondered, where do I plug this in? Fact 18. Chewing gum, the birch pitch. You chew gum to look cool or relieve stress. In Finland, archaeologists found a piece of chewing gum that is 5,000 years old. It was made of birch bark tar. It had tooth marks in it. Why were they chewing it? Birch tar has mild antiseptic properties, so it helped treat gum infections. It also acted as a glue to fix tools. So, the Neolithic hunter was chewing a substance to fix his spear and clean his teeth simultaneously. You chew bright pink rubber that loses its flavor in 6 seconds and stick it under a desk. They were practical. You are just orally fixated. Fact 19. Popcorn, the exploding maze. You think popcorn belongs to the movie theater industry. In 2012, researchers found corn cobs in Peru that suggested people were popping corn 6,700 years ago. Before they even had pots to boil it, they were resting dried corn on hot stones or tossing it into fires to watch it explode. It wasn't just a snack. The Aztecs used it to decorate statues of their gods and made necklaces out of it. It was a sacred, exploding food. You eat it covered in fake butter while watching a superhero movie. They ate it while watching ritual sacrifices. The context has changed, but the snack remains exactly the same. Fact 20. Newspaper, the stone tablet. You doom scroll Twitter to see who is arguing with whom. The Romans had the Acta Diurna, daily acts. Julius Caesar ordered them to be carved on stone or metal and posted in the Forum. They contained news of military victories, birth and death notices, and even gladiatorial results and gossip about politicians. Scribes would copy the news and sell it to the wealthy to take home. It was the first mass media. The only difference is that their news was carved in stone, meaning they actually thought before they posted. Your news is digital, fleeting, and usually wrong.
Are you feeling humble yet? No? Of course not. You're probably thinking, well, at least we have good food and comfortable clothes. Oh, you poor, soft creature. You are wearing the clothes of barbarians and eating the food of peasants. You think comfort is an achievement? Comfort is what happens when a civilization peaks and starts to die. You aren't thriving, you're marinating in your own laziness. Let's finish this list so I can go back to my grave.
Fact 21. Pants, the barbarian leggings. Look at your legs. You are likely wearing pants. If you traveled back to ancient Rome wearing them, you would be mocked. Pants were invented by nomadic horse-riding cultures of the Eurasian steppes because riding a horse bareback in a tunic chafes your skin off. To the Greeks and Romans, pants were the uniform of the savage, the barbarian, the enemy. Civilized men wore robes and tunics to let the air flow. By wearing trousers, you are admitting that you are descended from the horse-riding hordes that burned Rome, not the philosophers who built it. You are wearing tactical riding gear to sit in an office chair. Fact 22. Beer, the liquid paycheck. You treat craft beer like a hipster hobby. For the Sumerians 5,000 years ago, beer was a food group. It was thick, nutritious, and safer to drink than the water, which was full of parasites. In fact, the workers who built the pyramids of Giza were not slaves. They were paid laborers, and part of their daily wage was 4 to 5 liters of beer. It was liquid bread. It fueled the greatest construction projects in human history. You drink beer and fall off a bar stool. They drank beer and stacked 2-ton stones with mathematical precision. Maybe you're just drinking the wrong brand. Fact 23. Ketchup, the fish sauce. You put ketchup on everything. You think it's purely American, but the word comes from the Chinese Hokkien word ketchup, which means fermented fish sauce. Original ketchup had 0 tomatoes. It was a pungent, salty brown brine made from rotting fish guts, used by sailors in the 17th century to flavor bland meat. The British added mushrooms and walnuts. Tomatoes weren't added until the 1800s in America. So when you dip your fries, remember, you are technically enjoying a heavily modified, sugary version of ancient fish juice. Bon appetit. Fact 24. The condom, the reusable linen. You think safe sex is a modern invention? The ancient Egyptians used condoms, but they weren't the disposable latex convenience you know. They were made of linen cloth soaked in oil, or sometimes animal intestines. And here is the part that will make you cringe. They were often reusable. You had to wash them. The Romans used goat bladders. They understood that disease and unwanted children were dream killers. They were willing to wrap themselves in sheep guts to stay safe. You complain if the packet is hard to open. You have no idea what true dedication looks like. Fact 25. Anesthesia, the opium sponge. You are terrified of surgery. Imagine it without anesthesia. But wait, medieval doctors weren't total monsters. The soporific sponge was used from the 9th century. It was a sea sponge soaked in a cocktail of opium, mandrake, hemlock, and unripe mulberry juice. They dried it out. When surgery time came, they dipped it in hot water and held it over the patient's nose until they passed out. It wasn't perfect. Too little and you woke up screaming. Too much and you stopped breathing forever. But it beat biting on a stick. We refined the chemicals, but the concept of drug them until they can't scream is ancient. Fact 26. The prosthetic limb, the wooden toe. You think bionic limbs are sci-fi? In 2000, archaeologists found a mummy in Cairo with a prosthetic toe made of wood and leather. It wasn't just cosmetic. Wear patterns showed the person actually walked on it. It had a hinge to mimic the flexion of the foot. This was 3,000 years ago. Before modern composites, artisans were crafting functional replacement body parts to help the disabled get back to work. They didn't have 3D printers. They had chisels and empathy, and it worked. Fact 27. Paper, the wasp's nest. You print useless documents that go straight to the shredder. Paper was invented in China by Kai Lun around 105 AD. Before that, people wrote on bamboo strips, too heavy, or silk, too expensive. Legend says Kai Lun watched wasps building their nests by chewing wood fibers into a pulp and spitting it out to form walls. He copied the bugs. He took old rags, fishing nets, and bark, mashed them into a pulp, and dried it. He literally looked at an insect and thought, I can do that. Every book you read is essentially a copy of a wasp's house. Fact 28. The restaurant, the thermopolium. You think ordering takeout because you're too lazy to cook is a modern vibe? In Pompeii, archaeologists excavated thermopolia, literally hot food places. Most regular Romans lived in tiny apartments without kitchens. They couldn't cook, so every day they went down to the street counter, looked at the jars of hot stew embedded in the stone counter, and bought their dinner to go. They had fast food chains, customized orders, and likely complained about the service. The only difference is they paid with denarii instead of Apple Pay. Fact 29. Chocolate, the bitter water. You eat chocolate as a sweet, milky treat. The Maya and Aztecs would be disgusted by your Hershey's bar. For them, chocolate was a sacred, frothy, bitter drink made from crushed cocoa beans, water, and chili peppers. No sugar, no milk. It was a stimulant, like Red Bull, drunk by warriors before battle and by kings for potency. It was blood of the earth. When Europeans added sugar and milk, they turned a warrior's drug into a child's candy. You aren't eating the food of the gods. You're eating a diluted, domesticated version for weak palates. Fact 30. The automatic door, the temple fire. You walk through automatic sliding doors at the grocery store and feel like a king. Hero of Alexandria, the vending machine guy, invented automatic doors in the 1st century AD. He set up a system where a priest would light a fire on an altar. The heat expanded the air in a tank below, which pushed water into a bucket. The heavy bucket pulled a rope, which turned a spindle, which opened the massive temple doors. To the crowd, it looked like the gods themselves opened the doors in response to the fire. It was pure theater powered by thermodynamics. Your grocery store doors use a motion sensor. His use the elements. He wins. Conclusion. So there you have it, 30 reminders that you are not special. You are just a Roman peasant with a better dentist and a worse attention span. You live in a world built by dead people who were smarter, tougher, and more creative than you will ever be. Go ahead. Use your Egyptian toothpaste. Flush your Minoan toilet. Sleep on your African mattress design. But remember, eventually, you'll end up just like them, bones in the dirt. The only difference is, archaeologists 2,000 years from now won't find your brilliant inventions. They'll just find a layer of plastic and a fossilized skeleton clutching an iPhone. Sleep tight, softy. I'll see you soon.